the record button here. Wonderful. Thanks, Shen. Yeah, okay, cool. All right. So welcome once again to everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you, GBA Academy, for putting this session together. My name is Melissa, as Shen has introduced earlier. I'm representing Navitas Canada and the US today. Just thought I'd start off today's session with a map of Canada. I think it's really important for us to know where we are sending our students to, and for our students and their parents to actually know which part of the country they're going to be spending the next 4 or 5 years in. Canada is a big country. It's about 38 million in terms of population size. It's big, but obviously if you look at the land size from the left to the right, there is more than enough space for everyone. So if any of your students are claustrophobic, I promise they won't feel claustrophobic in Canada. There's a lot of space, a lot of land. Within Navitas Canada, we have four amazing options for your students to choose from. I find that in Canada, when I meet students, you have like 2 types of students. The types of students where they will choose a university where they have relatives or family members that are currently residing in Canada. And you also have the other batch of students who don't mind. They are happy to go on an adventure. They don't have any family, they don't have any friends. They don't mind, going on an adventure, jumping on a plane, getting on an almost 24-hour flight, travel duration to get to Canada. So we'll start with the left of the Canada map on the screen, where we have the province of British Columbia. So in Canada, we call the states provinces. So British Columbia, or BC for short, as we call it. We have Vancouver. Has anyone been to Canada, or have you guys got family in Canada by any chance? You can sort of like use the emoticon to raise your hand, but I see some nods there, so probably not yet. Yeah, okay, no worries. We haven't had a fam trip in a while, but hopefully 2023 onwards, once we start building up the market again, we'll start putting together a trip. I think it'll be really cool to have as many of you as I can visit our campus in Canada. It's nothing like being there yourself, but for today we get to go there virtually, and I'll take you there virtually, show you some videos and stuff, which I'll share after the presentation. In Vancouver itself, we have Simon Fraser University, and this is our flagship university partner because it's our first partnership into Canada. And the foundation program, or the pathway college we call it, is called FIC, which stands for Fraser International College. So one of the benefits of coming for your students to come to the Navitas pathway is that all of our foundation colleges, or first year colleges you can call it, are on the same campus as the university. So FIC is on the same campus as SFU, just a different building. And then if you look in the middle, we'll fly into Manitoba, another province in Canada. It's known as the friendliest province in Canada, where we have the city of Winnipeg. Winnipeg is where the University of Manitoba is at, and ICM, the International College of Manitoba, is on the same campus as the University of Manitoba. And if you fly from Manitoba to Ontario, that's another very popular province of our students, you will arrive in Toronto. Although some of us have not been to Canada, but I'm sure you've heard of Toronto, because it's a very popular city within Canada for holiday, for work. A lot of businesses are there. There's a great basketball team, Toronto Raptors. If you guys watch the NBA, they're obviously a famous basketball team from Toronto. And in Toronto, we have TMU, Toronto Metropolitan University. This university is located in downtown Toronto itself. So if your students are interested in a city campus, something like RMIT in Australia, in Melbourne, I think they'll really enjoy it in TMU. And last but not least is a university called Wilfrid Laurier University. Wilfrid Laurier is the 7th Prime Minister of Canada, and this university is named after him. So Brantford is about a 1-hour drive away from Toronto. Or your students can also catch the train, the SkyTrain, and it'll take them there in about 45 minutes. It'll cost about 20 Canadian dollars. So they can still pop into Toronto on a weekend if they like. So that's just a big picture. That's a lot of information, but I just wanted to set the scene in terms of the the brands of the universities that we partner up with our Navitas Foundation, as well as first year. So our programs in Navitas Canada is geared for undergraduate students. We don't have any master's or postgraduate programs at the moment through the Navitas contract. Maybe in future, but for now, we're focused on the undergraduate portion. So your students coming in from UEC, from SPM, IGCSE O-levels, Canadian pre-university, A-levels, IB, these are suitable students to come through the Navitas pathway. If your students have already done like maybe 2 years in Sunway College or 2 years in Taylor's University and for their bachelor's degree, then it's best that they apply directly to the university. The pathway that we have is very much geared for your students coming out of high school. I think that's the best fit for them to join. Right. Okay, cool. Let's just move on. I won't delve too much on this slide. Okay. So what do you guys know about Canada? What do you guys know about Canada? When I mention the word Canada, what's the first thing that you can think of? What's the first thing that pops up in your mind? Anyone?
Maple syrup.
Yeah, well done, Sasa. Maple syrup, spot on. Yes, yes, we've got near North Pole from Hendra. Yes, I feel you, Hendra. It's cold. And then Gopi mentioned honey. So yes, that's great stuff. That's great stuff. It's really interesting because whenever I ask this question to the audience, and I get like very similar responses as well. You know, it's very well known for its honey, it's maple syrup, as you guys have pointed out. It's cold, like what Hendra mentioned, North Pole. Of course, it's also famous for its ice hockey. Niagara Falls, one of the amazing wonders of the world, at the bottom right of the screen, as you can see there. Yeah, so I was also going to say that aside from Canada being a great destination to live and go for holiday and to work, it's also a great place to study, a great place for you to call it your home or your second home. It's very migration friendly. So if your students are thinking about making Canada their second home, work there after graduation, it's definitely very, very possible. And I'll run through some of the details in a bit as well today. Let's move on. So how many Canadian companies do you know? Some of you might have come across these brands in your countries, or when you travel for a holiday, you might have seen some of these brands. So I usually share their slides, share the slide with prospective students and parents, just so they feel like Canada is not that far. Like, you know, it's a long flight from where we're at in Southeast Asia, but to be honest, a lot of brands are actually closer than we think. For example, the Bombardier, it's a Canadian company which makes the trains in Malaysia, the LRT, the MRT. They're actually Bombardier trains, and Bombardier is a Canadian company. Fun fact there. BlackBerry obviously is Canadian. We've got Tim Hortons, which is like the Starbucks of Canada. Cirque du Soleil is a very famous, world famous circus troupe. So if you've seen them on YouTube and stuff, they're really, really cool, and they're Canadian. MAC Makeup, obviously, Herschel, Canada Goose. So yeah, lots of really, really cool brands there. Moving on. So why Canada? You know, when there's other amazing destinations to choose from in the Western world, and also in the Eastern world now, obviously with Taiwan and stuff coming up. Well, I would say Canada's a really welcoming and attractive study destination. And we can see this from how the country managed the COVID situation. Like, you know, travel borders were shut, you know, almost practically everywhere in the world. But our students were still able to fly into Canada. As long as they hold a valid study permit, they're able to catch their flight, come over to Canada, and go for in-person classes. If it's not in-person due to restrictions, then they will study online. So this was the old COVID world. Now, obviously, as of today, things are, I would say, pretty much 95%, 100% back to normal in Canada. You know, it's like, you know, they don't really wear a mask when they're there, you know, just pretty much carry on with life as per normal. In campus, we recommend that students put on their masks just to be safe, yeah. Our degrees are also internationally recognized. So whether your students choose to study and live and work in Canada or return back to their home country, their degrees are internationally recognized. similarly, if you go to other Western countries as well, it is globally recognized. Another important point here to note is that your students have the opportunity to work part-time as an international student, 20 hours a week. So very similar to Australia. They get to earn some extra pocket money to, essentially help fund some of the living costs if necessary. But I always encourage students to go for it, because in addition to the extra pocket money, you actually get some amazing experience by immersing yourself in a local culture, get to know the locals. Instead of just going for class and then going back, you don't really gain much experience out of it, aside from, doing well in your exams and, scoring what you need to basically get through your university degree. If you ask me, what's the main selling point of studying in Canada, I would say that it's the opportunity for your students to do co-op. So have you guys heard of the word co-op before? Maybe, yeah. Okay, so I see some nods in the crowd, like some might have heard of co-op. Some of you might be seeing co-op for the first time, and that's okay. Co-op in Canada is basically paid internship. So your students, as part of the 4-year bachelor's degree in Canada, will get a chance to do the paid internship. Co-op is a partnership between the employer, the university, and also your student. So that's why we call it the cooperative program. And it's 4 years in Canada, yes. So your students will compare to the UK. It's only 3 years to complete the bachelor's degree in the UK. However, doing your co-op in Canada is part of your 4-year bachelor's degree, and that's why it takes a little bit longer for your students to complete a bachelor's degree in Canada. But the benefit of that is your students will have a high chance of getting a job offer before they graduate, because of that solid work experience that they have. They're able to score their first job even before they graduate. The thing about Canada is that they value co-op a lot. They value volunteer work a lot. A lot of Canadians are actually very well educated. A lot of them go on and study, like the masters and stuff. So I always encourage students, like, don't stop at your certificate or your diploma if you can. Like, it's really good for the long term if you go on and complete a bachelor's degree. Long time, 4 years, but if you take it one step at a time, you will graduate in no time. I do have some questions from the crowd already, so thank you so much for that. Hendra has a question around what are the rates for internship or part-time in Canada per hour. That's a really, really good question, Hendra. I would say that the minimum wage would depend on which province you're at, but I would just use as the province of Ontario as an example. It's about $16 to $17 an hour. It was about $16.50. So it's thereabouts. It's a lot higher than the US, for example. Yeah, good question there. And Maki has one as well. Thanks, Maki, for that question. And thank you, Hendra. Good question there. Canada degree duration is 4 years. Yeah, I know that's exactly it, Maki. It takes 4 years to complete a bachelor's degree in Canada after year 12. If you're coming in from SPM, you need to do a foundation with us at Navitas, and that's where we come in. It's 8 months, just 8 months to do the foundation from SPM or O levels, and then it's 4 years into the bachelor's degree. But not to worry, I'm gonna give you a quick diagram as well, just so you can actually have a quick look at it as well. 3-year postgrad work permit as well. This is the opportunity to stay back in Canada after they graduate. Your students will get to essentially stay back in Canada for an extra 3 years after they complete their bachelor's degree. And this also leads up to opportunities for them to apply for their permanent residency. Not all students are looking at this, but increasingly, from what I can see by talking to students nowadays, they are looking at the opportunity of being able to apply for the PR and maybe stay back in Canada. And it's really, really possible. I always use the example of my colleague, Michelle. Michelle is she was an international student from Hong Kong, and she joined the FIC Foundation program, went on to SFU, Simon Fraser University, to complete her 4 years bachelor's degree. And now, just about 1 month ago, she got her citizenship from Canada. So she's lived there for about 10 years now, but it's definitely possible. She actually works with us in Navitas as well. She's one of the marketing managers for Wilfrid Laurier. So really, really cool stuff. I always talk about the example of Michelle because it's a true story that we all can relate to. And if your students are also thinking about doing what Michelle did, going there as an international student, working there, making Canada their home or second home, definitely possible. Yeah. Okay. About Navitas, I'll skip this because it just talks about the organization, how we're basically born in Australia and now we're operating in all other parts of the world. Let's just move on to this one here. This slide is really important to answer Maki's question as well, Maki and team. If there's one takeaway from today's presentation, it would actually be this slide. I think this slide is really important because it captures the essence of the Navitas program. And it's the same for any four Navitas Canada colleges that we're talking about. So as you can see, we have like year 11, year 12 pathway. The pathway that we have in Navitas, we call it UTP. UTP stands for University Transfer Program, and your SPM students or IGCSE O-level students will do stage 1 with this. So I guess you can look at stage 1 like a foundation program, but a fast track foundation, just 8 months to complete. And your students coming in from UEC, STPM, not very much, but just in case they come from STPM, A-levels, IB, they will join stage 2. And if you look at the chart here, stage 2 is actually the same level as first year in university. So you can look at it like an international first year program. So what type of students do I normally see at stage 2? I see a lot of A-level students. I see a lot of IB students. These students can apply directly to the university. However, they need a very high score. So sometimes if your students have like 3 Cs in A-levels or CCD, depending on what major they want to go in, we're still able to take them in stage 2. And from there, we'll prepare them to go into second year. It's usually a guaranteed transfer into the second year in the respective university, as long as your student does well, basically well as in like credit average and above, like 2.5 out of 4, 2.75 out of 4, for example, depending on what they want to major in. As long as they meet the minimum GPA, they're guaranteed a space in second year. So that's one of the advantage of the Navitas pathway. And also your students will get to be on campus from day 1 when they join us at Navitas, because remember, all our colleges are on the same campus as university. So your students don't have to, move from one location to another, as some students will obviously go to you like, hey, Sasa, I want to go to Canada, but I want to go to like a community college, because it's more cost effective. But then going into one of those community-like colleges does not guarantee you admission into university. You also might need a much higher grade to get in. So if your students want something more guaranteed, more assured, then I would recommend this pathway, because in the letter of offer, when your students get it, it's like a package offer. So it will have an offer for let's say FIC, and also a package offer into Simon Fraser University. It will state down in a letter of offer like what grades your student need to get, and then they'll be guaranteed a transfer into the university. So it's reassuring, especially when parents look at it. Everything is there in black and white. And also when your students apply for the study permit, the visa, they can actually apply it for the entire duration of the program. Sometimes the visa officer might only give like 2 years or maybe 3, but not to worry, your students can extend the visa from Canada once they get there. Yep. Okay, cool. All right, so this slide is important. Take note of that one. Again, the benefits of coming through the Navitas pathway, guys, it's extra support. In short, it's extra support. Your students will actually have that soft landing. Sometimes going to Canada for the first time as an international student, at like 17 years old, 18 years old, it can be quite scary, going to a new country on your own, when you might not have family or friends there. It can be quite scary. So what we do at Navitas is we want to make sure that your students will have a very comfortable and smooth start to their journey in Canada as an international student. So our class sizes are smaller, 25 students maximum in the classroom. Obviously, the programs and syllabus are from the university because we co-design the courses. So the quality is ensured there. Your students will have extra time with their lectures and academics. Asian students tend to be a bit more shy. They don't usually ask too many questions in class, or they a bit shy, less forthcoming. So I always encourage like my students to don't be afraid, don't be shy, just try and reach out to your academics if you need help, whether it's your English language or whether it's your presentation skills or your essay writing skills. Just reach out if you need help. And that's where our academics are there to work with your students and help your students to make sure that they're all set to do well in university. So here at Navitas, we want to make sure that we set your students up for success. Yeah, in short. Okay. So our first up, guys, we're going to virtually fly into FIC in Vancouver. And here goes, just some quick snippets about Simon Fraser University. You can see on the left of the screen, it's usually very clear blue skies. SFU is located up on a hilltop in Burnaby. So you can look at it like something like being in Genting Highlands in Malaysia, like up on a hill, very nice weather, cooling, not too cold. And in Vancouver, it's very moderate. I know people think of Canada as like, oh, it's so cold. Yeah, obviously it's cold, colder than Australia and stuff like that. But I always tell students, if you want to experience a real winter, you come to Canada. You can actually build a snowman type of thing, like a real winter, not like the mild winters that you get in Australia. And yeah, so we're up on a hill in Burnaby, and we're about 20 minutes from downtown in Vancouver. We obviously have like a shuttle bus as well to take our students to other campuses if they need to, but Burnaby is the main campus. So most of your students will be studying here. And the rankings of this university is really good, guys. In Canada, we use something called Maclean's. It's a ranking system that we use for Canadian universities. Something like Times Education, Shanghai Jiaotong. In Canada, we use Maclean's. So SFU is ranked #1 for the past consecutive years now, the #1 comprehensive university. So what that means is comprehensive because SFU offers a whole range of courses, like from business to arts to IT, a whole bunch of them. And yeah, let me just show you the courses that we have. Change Matters, that's our tagline in FIC. So all our colleges have stage 1, which is the foundation program for your SPM students. And in terms of the majors that we have, you can look at it at the stage 2 column, from arts to communication to engineering, a lot. So the key programs that I'm getting from like Southeast Asia, I would say, is IT, business, as well as the environment. Interestingly, environment course is actually getting quite popular from my Singaporean students. So these are the popular areas at the moment. So if your students are looking for these areas, I'll definitely recommend some of these areas because SFU is really good and strong in these areas. I think another great thing about studying in Canada, guys, is your students don't get locked in. Like they can choose what they want to major and minor in. Like think of it like making your own pizza. You have the base, and then you can choose what toppings you want to put on it. So similar to a bachelor's degree in Canada, you build your own burger, you build your own bachelor's degree. You choose what you want to major in, and you can choose what toppings you want to put in it. So for example, you can major in marketing, and then you can take like electives from performing arts or music, because that's what you're also passionate about as an individual. You can actually take those electives as part of your bachelor's degree. So really, really cool there. And I think Malaysian students or even Southeast Asian students might find like, wow, you can do this. It's so flexible because, unlike the UK and Australia, they're a bit more structured. Obviously UK more structured, and then Australia a bit less structured, but Canada and the US, like very, very flexible. Within the 4 years, as long as you take all your subjects and earn your credit hours, you will graduate. And in turn, I think your students will become very holistic human beings because they know a little bit of everything. Although you're an accountant, but you also harness your passion in music or singing or even like film and TV. So it's really, really cool there. Yeah. Okay, now without further ado, we're going to go into another province, Manitoba. Again, I mentioned it's the friendliest province in Canada. It's a much smaller province, but a few fun facts about Winnipeg, right? Winnipeg is where the University of Manitoba is located in. So Manitoba is a province, and then Winnipeg is a city in Manitoba. So Winnie the Pooh, like guess how the teddy bear Winnie the Pooh was, it came about. It was actually named after Winnipeg. Winnipeg, so Winnie the Pooh. So yes, Winnie the Pooh came from Winnipeg. What else? James Bond, the 007 secret agent. The original James Bond, despite that what you see in the movies, right? We all think he's British, but if you read the novels, the books, James Bond, the original James Bond was actually from Winnipeg in Canada. So really, really cool stuff there. The Ebola vaccine was also invented in a laboratory in Winnipeg. It's a bit of a hidden gem in Canada. A lot of people think of Canada, they think of Vancouver, Toronto, because they're big cities, right? Like Melbourne and Sydney. But Winnipeg, I would say, is a hidden gem of Canada. University of Manitoba is a great university. You can look at the structure of the building there compared to SFU. It's a bit more Harry Potter-like, it's a bit older. It's actually the oldest university in the western part of Canada. It's also part of Canada's U15 group. So you might have heard of Australia's group of 8 universities. In Canada, we have U15, which is a group of 15 universities, and they work together in areas of research, policy making. So University of Manitoba is one of the universities as part of the U15 group. It's a top tier research university. Also, back in 2021, Time magazine, they voted Winnipeg as one of the world's top 100 greatest places to visit. The really, really cool stuff there. Like you get a sort of a hipster vibe in Winnipeg. We've got this amazing food festival during summer as well. So you get like cultures from all parts of the world. It's a really, really cool city. And I'm going to share some videos with you guys later, just so you get a sense of what the location is like. So what type of student would be suitable for the ICM pathway? I would say that any student that is interested in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, University of Manitoba would be a great choice for them. But also, if your students are a little bit on a budget, I would recommend Winnipeg, because the cost of living here, being a smaller city, is not so expensive compared to Vancouver and Toronto. Just to give you a figure in your head, like just put a number there, tuition fee for 1 year, it's about 20,000 Canadian dollars. Yep. And cost of living is about 12 to 15,000 Canadian dollars for 1 year. If you compare it to Vancouver or Toronto, tuition fee is about 30,000 Canadian dollars. And cost of living is also more expensive because it's a bigger city. I would budget about 15 to about 18,000 Canadian dollars for 1 year for cost of living. Yep, there we go. So a bit of useful information there. Like, I see some of you guys taking notes, but just some numbers so you can actually plug it in just in case you need to have a chat on that with your students. Okay, last but not least, we're going to fly into Ontario, and you will see there it's Ryerson University and not TMU. That's because Ryerson University is the old name of TMU. So some students might come up to you guys and say like, hey, I want to join Ryerson University. Ryerson University has now been renamed to TMU. We renamed it in April this year, and there's a whole story about it. But in a nutshell, we wanted to better reflect the DNA and the character of the institution. So, and also, I think it's easier for people. They know it's Toronto Metropolitan. They know the universities in Toronto. If you go like Ryerson, not everyone actually know where the university is. So yes, Ryerson University is now known as TMU. That's a snapshot, like a bird's eye view of the campus. It's actually smack in downtown in Toronto. So it reminds me a lot of RMIT in downtown Melbourne. Very similar in the way we teach as well, very much focus on experiential learning, so much more practical. If your students are a bit more interested in learning by doing, this university is great for them. One of the strong parts of this university is the opportunity to participate in DMZ or DMZ, Digital Media Zone. DMZ is a business incubator. It's one of the few business incubators that we have in the world, located on the same campus as the university. So your student will get a chance to get access to mentors. They'll have access to funding to essentially pitch their idea and launch their business whilst they're still studying with us. So really, really cool stuff there. The popular programs that we have in TMU, we obviously have the foundation, but these few areas that we have on the screen, business is really strong. Our Ted Rogers School of Management is a very renowned business school in the world. We also have creative industries, and this covers areas like fashion design. It covers areas like professional writing, mass communication. And the beauty of that is that you can take fashion design as a concentration and mix it with business, because you still need to know some business elements to run your own fashion week in Milan or fashion week in London, you know. So it's nice to be able to combine both areas from the creative industry together with the business component. So yeah, really, really unique, you know, because I've seen other universities having business programs on your own, and they have like fashion design programs on your own, but this one you can actually combine both, which I think is pretty special and pretty relevant for your students. Yeah. Okay, last but not least, we won't fly. We'll just take a short bus ride to get to Brantford in Ontario. Again, it's about 45 minutes away. And this is Golden Hawks. He's our mascot, and you'll see him all around campus. So when you get a chance to come and see us, you'll definitely see Golden Hawks around. Wilfrid Laurier is a university where I find it's very community-like. I find that if your students want a true Canadian experience, then they'll get it here. Because if you compare the number of international students here to other bigger cities, they're probably more local Canadian students studying here. So if they want that sort of Canadian experience, they'll definitely find it here. This university is ranked top 5 in Canada for student satisfaction. So I always tell students and parents, don't just look at rankings, because rankings, they go up and down, they change every year. What you should also not ignore is the student satisfaction outcome. And I think that's really important. Like, how happy are your students studying here? How happy are they with the graduate outcomes? You know, spending 4 or 5 years in Canada, are they happy with the education that they received? So this university is ranked top 5 in Canada for student satisfaction. But also another good point to note is the high employability rate. Every year, Wilfrid Laurier hosts the largest job fair in Canada, and we invite employers from Toronto, Vancouver to come and meet our students in Brantford. So don't worry, like if your students are concerned about being in a smaller town, we invite the employers in each year, and the employment rate and placement rate is really high, 97.6%. It includes the rate of our international students as well, not just the local domestic students. So we're really, really proud of that statistic, and your students can enjoy guaranteed campus accommodation. It's guaranteed if you apply early enough, you know, not the typical, you know, Malaysian last minute, I want to go next month, I'm going to apply now. Yeah, always apply early. I always encourage students to please apply early. I would say at least 6 months before you start, because at the moment it takes about 13 weeks. So that's about 3 months-ish for the Canadian Immigration Department to process the visa. But from 2023, it's going to be a lot quicker, I have to say, because the Canadian government just recruited 1,200 new staff members to help clear the backlog visa application. So obviously this was due to COVID. It was also due to the situation in Ukraine and Russia that also impacted our processing time. But you know, I would say that we've reached like rock bottom in terms of slow processing time. 13 weeks is considered slow compared to UK and Australia. We know that. But rest assured that it's going to be a lot quicker. I have personally seen many of my Malaysian students successfully obtaining their visa, and they've already flown into Canada for the September fall term. Okay, I didn't mention this earlier, but we have 3 intakes in a year, guys. January, May, and September. September is the biggest intake. but it doesn't matter whether your students join in January or May, because we have a rolling intake to cater for our SPM students, our IGCSE and A-level students. So it's a rolling intake. Another benefit of the Navitas pathway, because if your A-levels or IB students want to apply directly to university, they might miss the cut. Some programs only have a September fall intake, but at Navitas, by joining the UTP stage 2 first year, they can come in January or May as well. So more flexible options for your students. Okay. Believe, belong, become. That's our tagline in WLIC. This university, we have more than 60 different majors. A lot to choose from, but a popular one, just to put it out there so you guys can remember, is computer science. Anything to do with IT, right? Computer science, data science. Another one is UX design, user experience design. So if any one of us have actually shopped online during the pandemic, whether it's Lazada or Shopee, chances are you would have noticed the works of a UX designer, a user experience designer. So they will make sure that the interface, is suitable for consumers, and they'll work with the back end, the coders, the designers to work to basically make something that's pretty, that work both ends. All right, cool stuff. Thank you so much for that question, Hendra. Is it the same requirement for Indonesia? Need IELTS or TOEFL or GMAT? That's a great question, Hendra. So on the point of English language requirements, none of the Canadian colleges, Navitas Canada colleges, actually require IELTS, TOEFL or GMAT. Certainly no GMAT. Between IELTS or TOEFL, if they have done like English as a first language, in IGCSE O levels, we get to exempt them from IELTS. But if they want to take IELTS, that's okay as well. They need like a 5.5 grade overall and above, obviously. For SPM students and everyone else, if they don't want to take any of these exams because it's expensive and they're afraid of studying for another test, the whole pressure of taking another test, they can also opt to take the Navitas English test. It's free. It takes 1 hour to complete, and you can do it online. They can just pop into the GBA Academy office, whether it's in Jakarta or Johor. They come to your office, they need a pair of headphones and stable internet connection. That's it. It takes 1 hour to complete. And once the exam is done, the results be sent over to my admissions team, and we will update the letter of offer from there. So to answer Hendra's question, they can take IELTS or TOEFL if they want, but if they don't want, that's okay as well. We can get them to take a free Navitas English test. And the only condition is that your student must hold a letter of offer, and then you can make a request with me or my counterpart in Indonesia to request for an online Navitas test, and we can organize that for you. Yeah. We try and keep it simple for our students, because I think the last thing they want is like, take another exam, it's stressful to be studying for another test. Yeah, good question there, Hendra. Thanks for that. Canadian opportunities. So what can your students expect? These are just some statistics, and I'll just flash them on the screen. Like I mentioned, a lot of top jobs in Canada require a bachelor's degree. So I always encourage students, like, don't just stop at a certificate level or diploma. Go all the way, complete your bachelor's degree, because in the long run, it'll do you good. 96% of our international students recommend Canada as a study destination. So a great testament there. They enjoy their time and they choose to make Canada their home after that. Your students get to work part-time. They also get to go for co-op. So co-op is the big one, the paid internship, which your students will get to enjoy. And your students don't pay tuition fee when they're doing co-op. They'll be earning money. So like a 12-week placement, 12 weeks, so 3 months, students earn about 5,000 Canadian dollars. So it's not bad. Like, it's really good pocket money, and they get solid work experience. It's something that you're going to be really proud of to put in your CV, and you'll be really confident, when you step in there for your interview for a job, because, you're equipped with that, work experience in Canada. And Canadian employers love to see that. Aside from having good grades, coming from a good university, I've noticed that employers in Canada really value what you do outside of the classroom, like whether you volunteer, charity work, co-op, like they know, like as an individual, you do something extra aside from what you need to do as a student. So very, very valuable experience there. Yeah. These are just some companies, obviously some of the big companies that our students do their co-op at. So if you're doing accounting or taxation, you could be at Ernst & Young, PwC, for example. Ubisoft is an interesting one. It's computer games, esports and everything. So Assassin's Creed, if you guys play computer games, yes, it was invented by one of our students at Ubisoft. So really, really cool. Ubisoft just opened a big, headquarters of sorts in Winnipeg. So they're constantly looking out for our students as well, like especially when you do co-op and you press them, it's a really good chance to secure a job as well in your final year. So again, Winnipeg, although not many people have heard of that name, because it's not as well known as Toronto and Vancouver. Sometimes I feel like going to a smaller city has its advantages. There are opportunities there. Winnipeg is known as a financial hub. Canada's largest insurance company is headquartered there. We also have Boeing, the airplane company. They have offices there. Google has an office there. So Google, right? Not Twitter. I know Twitter is like not doing so well at the moment. But yeah, no, Google has an office there as well. So really, really cool stuff. Yeah. Okay, so how to apply? I will usually just encourage students to hop in and connect with you guys at GB. It's an online application. We've done away with a paper-based application for a few years now. Go green, right? So it's an online application, and the website address is basically here. Each of our 4 Canadian institutions have their own website address, and each of them, once you go into the website, you'll see a very big apply now button. You can't miss it, but if you can't find it, let me know. It's quite a straightforward process. We just need a copy of your student's passport and their latest transcripts and certificates from university or high school. Not university, but high school. Yeah. So just upload those documents. Make sure you certify it, chop and stamp, and then if we need any additional documents, we'll reach out to you on email. One thing that Canada is very particular about is if there's a study gap. So for example, if your students finish year 11, whether it's SPM or even SMA in Indonesia, and if there's a study gap, then admissions will just ask why. Like, what did your student do? Maybe they work part-time or they took a gap year. We just need to explain it down in a short paragraph, just to explain why there's a gap. So Canada is a little bit particular about that. So just take note of that. Don't be too surprised if we, reach out to you and ask for these extra information. So I would usually, to quicken up the process, if you notice a gap, I would usually just ask the student to explain what they've done, and then you just type it out in a short paragraph, and you can attach it together with the application form. So we've updated the application form now to have that little question there to explain why there's a study gap. Not a long story, just something short, just so admissions know what your students have been doing. If they help their dad out in their own business, it could be a retail shop or whatever, or take a short break, become a personal trainer or something, just put it down, and admissions will be okay with that. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, guys. That is the end of the Canada portion. I also have a few to cover with you for the US. Only 3. I promise you it won't take too long. Because I don't want to have like an information overload as well. But if you have any questions on Canada, please feel free to let me know. You can type it into the chat box while I actually plug out the other presentation for Canada with you, for the US with you. So let me just close this one. An opportunity for you to take a short coffee break or a water break if you need as well while I plug this one up. Okay, all right. Gobi actually raised his hand. Hi, Gobi. Oh yes, I saw your question. Okay. Thanks a lot, Gobi. Just running through the chat box now. Okay, let's have a look here. What have we got? Okay, so Gobi has 3 questions. Thank you for that, Gobi. We'll be sure to run through it. Gobi's question is, 25 students in a class. pathway program. How about bachelor's degree? Yeah, that's a really good one, Gobi. It would depend on what area your students are actually majoring in, Gobi. But in general, in Canada, it's a few hundred, like a couple hundred students, because you'll be joining other domestic students as well whilst you're there. So there's going to be a lot more students there. But the main point is, I guess, we provide smaller classes and a bit more hand-holding as a start, because your students are a bit younger at that point of stage at 17, 18, and hopefully once they get assimilated into the culture, they get used to it. Plus, they're not alone because they have the whole bunch of students that were with them from UTP 1 and 2. They'll be going with them to university. So it helps. It helps when you have peers there with you. Okay. Thanks, Gopi. So, Gopi's second question is, for University of Manitoba, focusing in STEM, how about SFU? Yeah, good question, Gopi. In general, Manitoba is good for STEM. They also have business actually, but yes, STEM is the popular one. SFU is very well known for, I would say, business, stuff like psychology, performing arts, film studies, and also IT. They're good in IT as well. We have a big supercomputer on campus in Vancouver. So they have a lot of different areas actually. Yep, but those are the key ones. And Gobi's third question is actuarial, architecture, AI, robotics. Which uni would I recommend? Yeah, no, that's a really good one. And I really like that question, Gobi, because it's really being forward thinking, and also stuff like AI, robotics. These are future careers. If we talk about industry 4.0, right, the automation of things, it's very relevant. For actuarial, I would recommend ICM, going into the University of Manitoba. We have a few students doing that already. Architecture, we are not so good at, to be honest. I wouldn't recommend Canada for architecture because it will take a long time. Any professional course like architecture, medicine, dentistry, going to Canada will take much longer as compared to US and UK. Everything else, you'll be fine in Canada. But if your student really wants to be a doctor and want to come across to Canada, or really want to be an architect, then I would say go for a first degree. You can go to do a design course in SFU, and then do your master's in architecture, for example. Yeah. And then for medicine, we have biochemistry, biomedics as a start, and University of Manitoba before they do their postgrad in medicine. But yeah, anything like that will take a long time in Canada. Yeah, so something to take note if you have students wanting to do these areas. Yep. AI robotics, I would go for Wilfrid Laurier. Yeah, Wilfrid Laurier is going to be really good for these areas. Yeah. Good question there. Okay, Hendra also has a question there. So in conclusion, the application fee is free, right, for Canada? Yeah, no, great question, Hendra. Yes, it is free of charge for Canada. If they come through the Navitas Canada pathway, it's absolutely free of charge. No application fee at all. Yeah. Yeah. Universities might charge, but Navitas Canada, we don't charge. Yep. Thanks for that one, Maki. So how about the Canada program? Is it recognized by Malaysian government? For example, accounting, ACCA, MBBS, civil engineering. Yeah, no, that's a really, really good one, Maki. Yes, it is recognized internationally, especially for areas like business, right? They are double ACSB accredited. So it's really, really well recognized. So double ACSB accredited is for the one in University of Manitoba with ICM, double ACSB accredited. And if you talk about the other business programs in TMU, in SFU, in Wilfrid Laurier, yes, they're all recognized by the Malaysian government. So no issues there about recognition, as well as going into the accounting pathway. Yeah. MBBS, I won't touch upon because we don't actually have the medical program, but engineering, yes, no problems as well. We don't have so much of civil, to be honest. It's more into the mechatronics bit, mechanical engineering, as well as the electronics and mechatronics bit. And yes, it's all good if they want to come back and work. I will encourage students to work in North America for a bit, just to gain some work experience. And I would say that the trend from what I see is that the students that study in Canada will if not permanently migrate, they will work there for like 1 or 2 years. I'm hovering towards 2 years because 1 year is really short. Most of them stay for 2 years, and then after they realize 2 years, it's good. I mean, like they like it there. The salary is good, environment is good. They will usually stay on and make Canada their home. That's usually it. Yeah. So yeah, some might say like I'm gonna work there for a few years and then come back, but yeah, most of them actually stay on, unless they have reasons to come home. Yeah. Okay, really, really good questions there. Oh, we have one more from Gobi. Thanks for that, Gobi. Any difference between BA and Bachelor of Science in Psychology in Canada? Which uni would you recommend? Yeah, no, that's a good one, Gobi. I have two universities in mind that I would recommend. First of which for psychology is TMU, Toronto Metropolitan University. Second one is Wilfrid Laurier. And basically for BA and BSc, there you would still end up in psychology. However, there's also like psychological science, for example, and that's more of the science aspect of it. Like it goes into like the cognitive component, the brain bit and neuro and stuff. So then if your students are looking at that area, then I would actually go towards the science one because it has more science subjects within the program, the bachelor's degree. And if your students are more geared towards like counseling, the social arts part of it, human resource, behavioral studies, then I would recommend the arts one. But again, it's flexible in Canada. Your student can go about and switch. They don't have to decide straight away. They can start, try it out in the first year, see how they go, and they can actually decide from there. So really a bit more flexible in Canada, I would say, as compared to some of the countries where it's a bit more structured. Yeah, thanks so much for that, Gobi. Really, really good questions. Okay, so I'm just conscious of time. We have about 5 minutes left together today. But for the US, I'm not going to crowd you with too much information. I would say that once you have a student that's interested in the US, just reach out to me and we can work together to help convert your student. I can even organize a Zoom session for you if your student wants to have a chat with one of our students or faculty members from the US. But please note that because of the time zone difference, it's usually at night for Indonesia time or even Malaysia, Thailand time, because it'll be in the morning in the US. So it's usually pretty late in our time, but probably about 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. But it can be organized. I can definitely organize that for you. In the US, we only have only three institutions, and these are the institutions that we have on board. Queens College is in New York. UMass Boston is obviously in Boston. And last but not least is Richard Bland College of William and Mary in Virginia. So all three, your students can join us from year 11, whether it's SMA, whether it's SPM, or IGCSE IGCSE O levels. Your students will start off in a freshman year. We call it the GSSP, the Global Student Success Program. So if I can share, out of these three, I really want to talk about RBC, the one in Virginia, Richard Bland College of William and Mary, because I find it pretty special. This one here is great for your students who want to go to a top university in the US, but don't want to spend so much and they want something guaranteed. So I will use O levels as an example. It can be year 11 or SPM or SMA. Your students will do 2 years in the GSSP and they will earn an associate degree from RBC. From here, they can transfer to year 3 and 4 in the US to complete the bachelor's degree. And we have all bunch of areas from anthropology, to zoology, right? Anthropology, we've got engineering, a whole lot of different areas. And I'll share this presentation deck with you as well. But these are just some brands as well. Some of the university logos, which you might recognize because they're top universities that our students have successfully transferred into. So this one here, I think is a hidden gem because studying in the US is not entirely cheap. There is the community college option, but I would say that what we have here at Navitas USA is not a community college. So it's more expensive, but it's also more guaranteed. And it's cheaper than going to a top 100 university in the US straight away from your freshman year. So yeah, so this will be a really good one. And I'm going to share this with you, but I also wanted to show you the cost savings of coming through this pathway, guys. So just as a snapshot, I love showing this to parents. I mean, going to a community college will require an investment of about $9,000–10,000 US. coming through IBC is much more, right? It's 20,000, 19,000 actually, so double. But going into a top 100 university in the US for 1 year, it's about 35, sometimes even 40 or 1,000. So there is a lot of cost savings by spending 2 years in RBC before going into a top university. You save about 45,000 US dollars from a 4-year bachelor's degree in the US. So I'm just going to leave these with you. I know there's already a lot that we've covered today, but I just wanted to leave that one with you, just so you know what institutions we have to offer. And again, for the US, we don't need SAT, GMAT, IELTS. They can do the online Navitas test with us. So yeah, anyone has any questions so far on the US or Canada? I also wanted to say that I'm always accessible. So I wanted to share this with you as an overview, but we can definitely keep the conversation going. You can always drop me an email, drop me a WhatsApp if there are any prospective students. I will compile this deck and share this information with the team, with Ling Shen, as well as Jocelyn. And then she'll share it with all of you as well. So you can connect with me anytime. And yeah, I really just want to say thank you to each and every one of you for spending the past hour with me. I know time is really precious, and thanks so much for, waking up early and, joining me this morning. And Ling Shen, thank you so much for facilitating and coordinating this with the GBA Academy team. To everyone, in Malaysia and all parts of Malaysia, Hendra in Jakarta, thanks so much for joining in as well. Really appreciate it. Maki, Sasa, everyone, Joey, Gobi, really, really good questions there. And it's so nice to see you guys virtually. And I hope to see you in person in the very near future. So yeah, wishing you blue skies and a pleasant day ahead. It's Tuesday. So yeah, have fun. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Take care. And Ling Chen, you can share the recording with your colleagues as well that were not able to make it. Thank you, Hendra. See you soon in Jakarta. Thanks, Gobi. Thanks, everyone.